All right, hello and welcome to this training. As you can see from the title, what we're going to be talking about today is the mirror principle. And as you can see from the overview, what we're going to be talking about more specifically is the observer and the fabric of reality, the mirror principle, reflections in the physical world, mastering creation through consciousness, shared reality, and the illusion of separation, the review, and then your action items for the day or the next few days. So without further ado, let's get started and talk about the observer and the fabric of reality. So, reality only really becomes real when someone observes it. You could walk through an empty forest, and the moment your eyes land on the trees, they'll seem to appear for you. Without that act of witnessing, they really stay as potential, unformed energy waiting to basically take shape. So the universe operates like a canvas that basically stays blank until your attention paints something on it. Wherever your focus goes, energy condenses into form. And that's why your presence changes the world around you, literally. Now, everything starts with awareness. The moment you bring your consciousness to something, you create a relationship with it in a way. In physics, this shows up as the observer effect. The simple act of just watching an electron will basically cause it to behave differently. It's like reality is waiting for your cue to perform. The same rule applies in your life. People behave differently when you're watching. Opportunities shift when you actually pay attention, and what you focus on in general will start to form structure, direction, and pattern. And at the quantum level, particles exist in superposition, meaning they hold all possible states at once until they're measured. And the act of observation basically collapses that wave of potential into one definite outcome. Now, reality doesn't exist in fixed form until awareness interacts with it. When scientists shoot electrons through two slits without watching, the electrons behave like waves and create an interference pattern. The moment a detector observes which slit the electron passes through, the wave collapses and the electron behaves like a particle. The presence of observation basically changes the nature of what's being observed. And so the observer effect reveals that measurement isn't passive. The tools, the intent, and the consciousness involved in observation will influence the system being studied. And this means that there's no such thing as a neutral observer. Every act of watching participates in shaping what's being seen. And this quantum principle scales into everyday life. When you focus on a goal, on relationships, or outcomes, your attention collapses possibilities into probabilities. The more you observe something with clarity and intent, the more it solidifies into form. Awareness isn't just perception, it's creation in motion. And so this idea becomes more than science when you actually apply it to your personal life. Like your thoughts will create ripples in that unseen fabric of reality. Every assumption, every emotion, or expectation you hold will press into it and produce a reaction. You'll start to see how outcomes basically line up perfectly with the internal frequency you've been living in. It's like the universe mirrors your dominant state. And when you feel grateful, you'll notice more things to appreciate. When you carry resentment, life will send you more reminders of what's unfair. It's pretty obvious if you think about it. Now, you can think of your reality as a fabric, something alive and reactive, and it's soft enough to mold, but it's firm enough to push back. Every choice you make, from how you speak to how you think, will send pressure through that fabric. And over time, you'll begin to live in the shape you've pressed into existence. A person who constantly expects conflict, for example, will build a world full of arguments. A person who expects peace will unconsciously adjust their behavior to maintain it. The world is both your mirror and your clay. And if you look around, you'll see proof of your existence in small physical traces. That dust that does or doesn't pile up because you haven't or have cleaned it, or the trash that fills up because you live and eat, or the creases on your shoes that prove that you're moving. All of it shows that reality bends around your interaction. Entropy, which is the natural pull towards disorder or chaos, slows wherever you bring order. You exist because things stay organized under your influence. Without your hand in the system, nature will reclaim everything. And so your participation is the act that keeps form alive. Now, entropy is the second law of thermodynamics made visible. Everything in the universe naturally moves from order to chaos unless energy intervenes. A clean room becomes dirty. A healthy body decays without maintenance. Your beard will just grow unless you do something about it. Order doesn't sustain itself. Consciousness sustains it. Every time you organize something, you're pushing back against the default state of the universe. That resistance isn't for nothing. It's actually a sign of life. Living systems create pockets of order within a sea of disorder. Your existence is proof that consciousness can reverse entropy, at the very least, locally. And so you can in a way, measure your influence by looking at what decays when you stop caring for it. The garden that overgrows, the friendship that fades, the skill that atrophies. Entropy will always show where your attention has withdrawn. It's a ruthless but honest teacher. And so understanding entropy will really shift how you see maintenance. It's not a burden, it's the cost of keeping reality shaped to your will. Every act of care, whether cleaning, training, or organizing, is you stamping your consciousness into the physical world and saying, this matters to me. Entropy respects that claim only as long as you actually reinforce it and repeat it. So every object in your environment becomes a silent reflection of your consciousness. The clutter in your room will echo your mental noise. The order in your workspace will match your focus. If relationships around you seem tense or distant, you'll often find the same energy mirrored in your internal dialogue. The external world becomes a feedback loop. It won't punish or reward, it will just reflect. When you see chaos and entropy all around you, you're basically looking at energy that started inside and spilled outwards. So once you understand that the observer influences the observed, you'll start to take your own attention more seriously. You'll notice that what you ignore tends to decay and what you care for tends to grow. And this principle will show up in your finances, in your health, in your relationships, in your goals in general. Money that isn't watched will, for example, leak away. Muscles that aren't trained will atrophy. Friendships that aren't acknowledged will fade. Attention is nourishment. Energy follows where it's fed. And so this means you're never just a passive witness of your life. You're an active participant in building it. Every reaction, every emotional response, every decision adds another stitch to the fabric of your reality. The moment you understand this, responsibility stops feeling like a burden and starts feeling like a creative power. You'll realize that nothing is actually fixed unless you believe it is. Reality will always adjust itself to your dominant assumption of what's true. So understanding this observer-reality connection will change how you move through the world, and you'll stop waiting for proof to believe in something and start realizing that belief itself generates proof. The outside world will begin to look less like a static object and more like a mirror that's basically waiting for direction. And this shift will move you from reacting to reality to actually authoring it, one thought and one perception at a time. Now, once you grasp the living connection between observer and reality, the next step is learning how that connection reflects back to you through every part of your external world, from your environment to your relationships to the patterns that keep repeating until you finally see what they're actually trying to show you. So let's talk about the mirror principle. So every experience you have is a reflection of your inner state. Life acts as like a mirror. It doesn't show you what you want to see, it shows you what you are. So the world around you will keep handing you evidence of your own beliefs until you decide to change them. This is pretty obvious if you think about it, really. You'll always perceive and interpret reality through the emotional lens you wear. When the lens is cloudy with fear, guilt, or resentment, or sadness, the reflections will seem harsh and distorted. When the lens is clear and focused on purpose, peace, or clarity, everything around you will appear more aligned, cooperative, and supportive. So every thought you think produces a vibration, and it's not just metaphorically, but neurologically and behaviorally. That vibration will influence how you speak, how you hold yourself, and how you interpret events. The moment your mind expects rejection, for example, your body will slightly tense, your tone will change, and your words will unconsciously push people away. The mirror of reality will reflect back the rejection you feared, and this is why self-awareness will always precede transformation. Until you see what you're projecting, you'll keep assuming the mirror is broken when it's really just accurate. So most people will reject this principle the moment that they hear it, not because it's wrong, but because it's inconvenient. It will strip away every excuse they've been using to avoid responsibility. Blaming the world is way easier than examining yourself. So pointing at your boss, your partner, or your circumstances will always feel more comfortable than admitting that you've been the common denominator in every story you tell. So the ego will fight this truth with everything it has. It will say, but what about the things that happened to me? What about the abuse, the loss, the betrayal? And while those experiences are real and valid, the mirror principle doesn't deny their existence. It just refuses to let you stay a victim to them. The moment you accept that your current state is projecting your current reality, you reclaim the power to change it. But that reclamation requires sacrifice, the sacrifice of your favorite stories. And so people will prefer the comfort zone of perceived powerlessness or helplessness over the weight of responsibility. If life is random and unfair, then you're off the hook. If life is a mirror, then you're the artist, the architect, and the editor all at once. And that's exhausting to accept if you've spent years building an identity around being unlucky, misunderstood, or perpetually wronged. The mirror will show you the truth, but only if you're brave enough to actually look at it without flinching. And so here's the worst part. Most people won't do the work. They'll hear this, nod along, and maybe even feel inspired for a day or two, and then they'll go back to complaining about the reflection. You can't blame the mirror for reflecting you wearing a hat when you're wearing a hat. Unfortunately, self-awareness isn't a one-time epiphany. It's a relentless, uncomfortable practice that basically demands you question every assumption you've ever made about yourself, and that's just too much for most people to sustain. So think of your life as a feedback loop that never lies. If your home is messy, that mirror is showing you mental clutter. If people keep letting you down, the reflection might be your hidden pattern of expecting disappointment. The boss who never values your work will often reveal how little you've been valuing your own contribution, or that you don't value other people's contributions. Once you start looking at life as an extension of your own consciousness, patterns that once felt random will start making perfect sense. So to work with the mirror, stop trying to fix the reflection. You'll never change what's in the glass by rearranging what's behind it. You'll change your outer life by altering the source, your perception, your meaning making, your assumptions, and yourself. The world will shift the moment that you stop fighting the symptoms and start understanding the cause. So look closely and you'll see that life will repeat the same themes until you integrate their message. The same arguments, the same setbacks, the same emotional spirals. All of them are loops meant to wake you up to the part of yourself you've actually ignored. Each repeated pattern is life showing you a blind spot you've refused to face. So the moment you acknowledge it with honesty instead of resistance, the loop will dissolve and what remains will be feedback you can actually use. So the mirror principle is related to projection in a way, the psychological truth that your mind will externalize whatever it can't accept internally. So for example, when you judge someone for being arrogant, you most likely feel that others are going to judge you if you're confident too, which is why you aren't. It's usually your own unexpressed confidence trying to be seen. When you feel intimidated by someone's success, you probably believe that you'll intimidate people if you become successful too, which is probably why you aren't if you aren't. When you can't stand people who seek attention or create content, it's often because you've denied your own need to be seen. You've learned to equate visibility with ego, so you hide and fake humility and resent those who express what you secretly want permission to do. When you judge people for chasing status or money, you might be projecting your own buried ambition and believe that others will judge you if you chase status or money. You've convinced yourself that wanting more is shallow, so you sabotage your own drive and criticize it in others to feel morally safe. When you keep attracting unreliable people, it's often reflecting that you are unreliable with people or with yourself. The mirror keeps presenting that pattern until you restore integrity. Now, the mirror also works through symmetry. Whatever energy, belief, or behavior you extend into the world will eventually loop back through the people and situations you attract to you. So life doesn't copy what you say you want, it copies what you are. So, for example, when you're being indecisive, you'll soon find yourself surrounded by people who can't make up their minds. You'll get clients who hesitate, friends who delay, and opportunities that stall, all reflecting your own pattern of hesitation and indecision. When you often say, I'll think about it before investing in yourself, you'll start attracting clients who say the exact same thing to you. The universe basically mirrors your own buying behavior through your buyers. Your energy teaches others how to respond to you. Another example is when you constantly underpay others or seek discounts. You'll notice people try to negotiate your prices or undervalue your work. The market reflects your own relationship with value. If you treat value cheaply, it will return that same currency. Another example is when you judge successful people and secretly think they're lucky or fake, you'll basically repel success yourself. The mirror will assume that you want distance from what you criticize and will make sure that you stay separate from it. Another example is when you gossip or speak poorly of others behind their backs. You'll attract people who do the same about you. And so the world will personify the disowned traits or your disowned traits so you can finally reclaim them. You'll realize that everyone you meet is a fragment of your own psyche playing a role to help you grow. So start observing where your emotions spike, and those moments will reveal where your projections live. The person who irritates you is holding up a mirror to the trait that you have buried. And the situation that triggers fear is reflecting a story you've been unconsciously telling yourself about what's possible. Every reaction is a breadcrumb leading back to your internal state and beliefs. Now, once you trace the pattern inwards, take ownership instead of blaming the world. When you own the trait or emotion, the reflection will change instantly, and the mirror has no delay. It only echoes what you feed it. And so the more you own, the freer you become. Now, finally, integration will happen when you stop splitting parts of yourself into good and bad. You'll see that arrogance is just distorted confidence, fear is just misdirected awareness, and jealousy is just unrealized potential. Every reflection, no matter how uncomfortable, will carry a gift once you accept it. Now, awareness will make you powerful in this process. So when you catch yourself reacting, ask yourself, what is this showing about you? Or what is this showing you about you? When the habit of asking that question will basically dismantle years of projection. So you'll stop giving power to people and start reclaiming it, and life will stop feeling random, and every person, event, and moment will turn into a teaching tool for self-understanding. Now, even after you clear your old patterns, new layers will appear as you grow. It's part of life. Regular reflection should become a lifelong practice. So journaling, meditation, honest self-inquiry will act like a daily cleaning cloth for your perception. The goal isn't to keep your reflection flawless, but to keep it accurate. And so once you see that everything you experience is feedback, nothing will really intimidate you anymore. Failure will become data, rejection will become information, chaos will become an indicator that you've outgrown an old version of yourself. You'll start to appreciate the mirror even when it shows you something unpleasant, because you'll know it's just showing you the next piece to master. And when you understand how reflections reveal your inner state, the next realization is even deeper. That the physical world itself, from your home to your body to your results, is also mirroring your own consciousness. The outer environment will always carry the imprint of your inner condition, and that's where the work becomes tangible. So let's talk about reflections in the physical world. Now, the physical world isn't separate from you. It's the visible representation of your invisible mind. Everything you see, everything you touch and move through will carry traces of your consciousness in it. The way your home looks, the way your body feels, the way your money moves in and out of your life, all of it is communication. The universe doesn't speak in words, it speaks in symbols, and your environment is the clearest language it can use. So when you start reading it, you'll stop feeling like life is happening to you and start seeing that life is happening through you. And so take a moment to look at the world around you, your room, your car, your phone screen. They'll all tell a story about who you currently are. If you live in constant chaos, it's usually because your inner world is spinning faster than you can process. So if you keep your space organized and it's intentional, it's because you've already trained your mind to value clarity. So the outer world will always show what the inner world believes deserves attention. Nothing stays in your environment by accident. It's there because a thought invited it. And so you can think about how your home behaves when your emotional state changes, for example. When you're going through stress, probably your dishes start piling up, laundry will sit for longer, and dust will thicken. When you're centered, the same space will almost maintain itself. The mirror of the physical world will always respond to the quality of your energy and thoughts. So every object becomes a snapshot of your awareness at the moment you last interacted with it. When you start to live consciously, you'll notice how quickly your surroundings become cleaner, sharper, and more aligned without actually forcing it. Now, once you start reading these physical reflections, the next step is learning how to use them as feedback instead of judgment. So your environment will constantly report back to you on where your energy is leaking or stagnant. So, for example, a cluttered desk will show you an overloaded mind. Unpaid bills will reveal procrastination or avoidance around responsibility. Broken objects you've stopped noticing will basically represent neglected areas of your life that are quietly asking for repair. So when you treat your environment as data, you basically gain direct access to the state of your subconscious. The more attention you bring to these reflections, the more quickly you'll shift what they actually represent. So start by bringing small areas of your world back under conscious control. When you clean your room, for example, you're not just tidying up your space, you're reprogramming your nervous system in a way to prefer order. You're bringing order and reversing entropy. So the act will create new neural patterns of completion and self-respect. The next time you look around, that environment will basically echo back that progress and actually reinforce it. And so you'll also notice this feedback loop everywhere. The more you respect your body, the stronger and more cooperative it becomes. The more gratitude you express towards your finances, the more opportunities will seem to appear. Life won't reward you, it will mirror you. And so each action of respect towards your physical reality will also anchor that energy deeper into your consciousness. So the same principles extends beyond your home and your body. It includes the people, the experiences, and the events that actually show up in your life. So the friend who always cancels plans will mirror your own inconsistency. The client who doesn't really value your time will actually reflect how you've been undervaluing other people's work. The relationship that keeps repeating the same emotional dynamic will actually point directly to an internal belief that's still unresolved. So once you start to see people as mirrors instead of problems, you'll stop trying to fix them and start updating the part of you that they reflect. So when you catch yourself blaming someone, actually ask yourself, what version of you are they mirroring? Are they showing you your suppressed anger? Are they showing you your fear of being ignored or your resistance to change? Life will always bring people who reflect the next layer of truth you're ready to face. So take ownership of every reflection that triggers emotion. When you accept the lesson without guilt, the reflection actually loses its grip. People will change their behavior without you even forcing it because you've changed yourself, because you've already changed the frequency that attracted that version of them in the first place. So as you keep practicing this awareness, you'll start to notice how physical circumstances will rearrange themselves when your internal patterns shift. So the person who used to irritate you will all of a sudden seem pleasant. The same traffic that used to frustrate you will turn into quiet time to think. When your inner world stabilizes, the mirror calms down too, and reality will begin to behave like an ally instead of a test. You'll move through life like you're adjusting dials instead of fighting storms. And so a powerful way to anchor this is through intentional observation. So every day, take 5 minutes to actually study your environment and don't criticize it or judge it. Just try to decode it. Ask yourself what each area is saying about your current mindset, and then take one small physical action that represents the internal change you want to see. So clean a drawer to basically symbolize some clarity, or clean your room to symbolize clarity. Pay a bill to symbolize responsibility. Declutter your wardrobe to symbolize identity renewal. Pay your taxes to symbolize that you're actually a business owner. These small actions will send strong signals through the mirror, and the reflection will update accordingly. So make this a ritual, not a chore. When you align physical movement with conscious awareness, the subconscious mind will accept these new instructions faster. The universe doesn't need some big action. It just needs congruence. Every aligned action will ripple outward into your relationships, into your work, and into your results. So reinforce these new signals by staying aware of their impact, and notice how your energy feels lighter after cleaning, for example. Notice how new opportunities appear after you release old clutter. The more you acknowledge these links, the more automatic this alignment becomes. Now, over time, you'll basically stop separating the spiritual from the practical, and you'll understand that manifestation isn't about wishing for some vague goals, but rather about calibration. So you'll calibrate your mind through awareness and your environment through action, and together they'll form a unified mirror that reflects clarity, abundance, and coherence. And you'll no longer wonder when your life will change. You'll see it evolving every day in the small, visible shifts all around you. And once you've learned to basically read and reshape the reflections in your physical world, the next realization unfolds, which is that the same power shaping your environment can actually consciously be directed to shape your future. And that's where creation becomes deliberate rather than accidental. So let's talk about mastering creation through consciousness. So once you understand that reality mirrors your consciousness, you'll see that mastery comes from stabilizing your state of mind. So thoughts will build the framework, but your state will determine whether that framework actually holds. And so the world around you will always match the level of order or disorder in your mental field. Creation isn't about passion or intensity, it's about steadiness. A clear mind will build a clear life. A fragmented mind will scatter everything it touches. So when you learn to hold your internal state like a steady flame, reality will shape itself to that rhythm. So reality doesn't respond to what you wish for. It responds to the tone of your awareness. Your mental state will act like a filter through which every event, person, and decision passes. If that filter is clouded with anxiety, you'll misread opportunities. If it's disciplined and neutral, you'll interpret things accurately and act efficiently. So the state you maintain throughout the day will quietly program every outcome you experience, and mastering your mind will always be the highest leverage skill. Now, once you see that your state governs the reflection, the focus shifts from chasing outcomes to commanding inner order. So intention begins in mental alignment, not emotion. You don't need excitement to manifest, you just need certainty. And when your thoughts, language, and actions move in one direction, your state becomes concentrated. And concentration is what bends reality. A scattered mind leaks energy, a centered mind directs it. And so the moment you decide something with conviction and hold that decision without second guessing, you'll notice events start to organize themselves around it. So define your direction with precision. A mind that knows what it's building stops producing noise. Clarity will compress your mental energy into focus, and focus will collapse probabilities into results. Then hold that clarity until it becomes habitual. Reality will test your steadiness, and every distraction, delay, and inconvenience will try to pull you out of alignment. When you stay calm through it, the mirror will stabilize, and consistent mental posture will create consistent external response. So keep your state clean of contradiction. If your words say one thing while your inner dialogue says another, then reality will mirror the confusion. Alignment between thought and action builds magnetic coherence. So your state of mind is the true creative engine. It's the silent posture that shapes your interpretation of everything. When your state is stable, you'll move through chaos without being distorted by it. And that calm command will act like gravity, drawing situations into order for you. Reality will bend for you. And so if you maintain composure while everyone else reacts, you'll notice that circumstances bend around you instead of against you. So spend time daily returning to mental stillness. That practice by itself will become your reset point. When your mind holds neutrality, you'll think with precision, you'll speak with weight, and act without waste. And the more time you spend in that baseline of composure, the faster the world will start reflecting clarity back to you. And train your state to remain unshaken by outcomes. The mirror often actually delays results to measure your steadiness. The moment you stop needing external validation to stay calm, life begins to comply. And discipline of state will outperform bursts of motivation every single time. And then finally, keep your awareness rooted in the current moment. The present is the only frame where reality can actually be influenced. You can't influence it yesterday. You can't influence it tomorrow right now. You can only influence it right now. So every time you drift into past or future, you lose leverage. When your mind stays here, fully engaged, observant, and decisive, the field around you adjusts instantly. So conscious creation doesn't mean waiting for reality to change. It means acting from internal authority instead of reaction. So every moment you make from a composed state will carry amplified weight. You won't waste effort compensating for confusion, and you'll instead move with precision because your internal signal is clean. So prepare your external systems to reflect that mental order. The more structure your outer life has, the easier it will be to maintain internal structure. Systems remove friction, and friction breaks focus. So execute decisions quickly once your mind is settled. A disciplined state will make hesitation unnecessary, and clarity will remove emotional noise, and speed will follow naturally. Then finally, try to trust the sequence of cause and effect. Reality will always follow your mental tone. Always. The delay between thought and result isn't some kind of a punishment or anything like that. It's calibration. Stay in command long enough and the reflection will always catch up. Now, when life mirrors instability, don't take it personally. Treat it as data. Every misalignment is actually feedback on your current state. If the reflection looks distorted, it means your mental field has drifted. So try to return to center. Every reset strengthens your command. Over time, you'll stop needing to control outcomes and instead maintain that state that guarantees them. So true mastery actually really happens when state becomes identity. You'll no longer have to remind yourself to focus or calm down. You'll live from mental discipline as your default posture. And life will start arranging itself before you even have to think about it, because the reflection will move in sync with your awareness because your awareness won't fluctuate anymore. So you'll become the still point that the rest of reality orbits around. And the more consistent your internal state becomes, the less chaotic your outer world will feel. Discipline will replace that emotional reactive state, and clarity will replace confusion, and life will begin to operate like a clean feedback loop. And you'll realize that control was never about force. It was about steadiness. And once you've developed that command over your personal state, a deeper layer of creation becomes visible. Understanding how multiple stable minds interact to form shared patterns of reality and collective experience. And that's where personal mastery begins to extend into collective influence. So let's talk about shared reality and the illusion of separation. So, after you've learned to stabilize your own mind, the next understanding is that reality isn't that personal, but more so, it's collaborative. So, every human being is an observer pressing into the same universal field. And what you experience as your world will overlap with countless other individual fields and people that think that is their world. And the meeting points between them are what you call society, culture, and shared experience. So, recognizing this will free you from the belief that you operate alone. It will also teach you why discipline of mind is more than a personal advantage. It's a contribution to the order of the world around you. Now, when multiple observers share a common state, their realities begin to synchronize. So that's why groups who believe strongly in the same idea will eventually see it manifest collectively. The atmosphere of a company or a family or a culture isn't random. It's a shared mental tone that's sustained by the states of its participants. So the more stable minds within that group, the stronger its collective direction becomes. And this is why leaders who maintain internal command will always shape environments faster than those who react emotionally, if they can even shape environments at all emotionally. So once you see that other minds actually affect your environment as much as you do, you'll stop fighting reality and start navigating it like a system of mirrors reflecting back collective thought. So influence begins with internal consistency. A steady mind will broadcast coherence into any environment, and that coherence will either attract or repel depending on how stable others are. So when your state is stronger, others will unconsciously adapt to it. Conversations will calm down around you, and conflict will lose heat. Even physical spaces will feel more grounded in your presence. This is why power often feels quiet. It's the stillness that dominates noise. So stability always sets the tone. When you hold a composed state among scattered minds, people will orient themselves around your calm. They won't know why, but they'll feel safer and clearer in your own presence. And so stability is contagious. It reorganizes those group dynamics without you even saying a word. So another tip here is having boundaries or strong boundaries. Strong boundaries basically protect the field you generate. So the moment you actually allow every external emotion to enter your system, your influence dissolves, and guarding your mental state becomes more important than ever, because it isn't about isolating yourself from the outer world. It's more so about maintaining that balance. The cleaner your mind, the more impact your presence will carry. And finally, leadership in this context doesn't mean authority. It means responsibility. So when your mind is ordered, the world around you benefits. You become an anchor point that stabilizes others through resonance, not some form of instruction or command. The highest form of influence is silent calibration. So every exchange you have with another person is a meeting between two states of mind. If you approach from clarity, you'll elevate the conversation. If you approach from irritation, you'll distort it. And the mirror principle works between people just as it does between you and the environment. You'll notice that others act as amplifiers of whatever you project, and those interactions will reveal how well you maintain your baseline. So start noticing how quickly your internal state shifts in contact with others. When you sense your mind is being pulled off center, it's feedback showing you where your boundaries are weak. So learn to remain calm while staying engaged. That balance will actually allow you to influence everything around you without really absorbing anything. And try to treat difficult people as diagnostic tools, as weird as it sounds. They'll expose the exact tone that still exists within you. So the impatient coworker shows you your own hidden haste, and the controlling partner reveals where you still try to force outcomes. So these reflections aren't punishments, they're calibration checkpoints. And when any tension arises, don't try to rush to fix the person. Restore your state first. The moment you stabilize, the interaction will shift because the mirror adjusts to your new tone. And this is how mastery actually translates into leadership, through consistency of mind, not persuasion of words. And every shared environment, from cities to civilizations, is actually built from the overlapping patterns of thought among individuals. The laws, the structures, and values you live within are the external architecture of collective states of consciousness. So when those states become fearful, systems collapse. When they become disciplined and visionary, societies start to thrive. And this is why personal mastery will always scale into collective impact. Your mind becomes part of the blueprint. So when you interact with systems larger than yourself, your goal isn't to dominate them. It's to align intelligently. Aligning doesn't mean conforming, by the way. It means identifying the governing principles of that collective and then navigating them consciously. You'll move faster through systems when you actually respect their structure while maintaining your own internal authority. And your contribution to the collective comes through the quality of your own thought, not the volume of your opinion. So every idea you hold and every decision you act on adds a micro adjustment to the shared field. And when more people cultivate disciplined minds, the collective reality becomes more functional. You change the world by thinking, and thinking clearly. And so with this understanding comes responsibility. You can't claim to want a better world while broadcasting chaos from within. Think about it. Every thought carries weight. Every reaction sends a signal. And so the disciplined observer actually realizes that internal command is an act of service to the shared field and to the world and to the collective. So the illusion of separation begins to dissolve once you realize that consciousness operates as one field expressing through many perspectives. The edge between you and them actually blurs when you see that every reflection is a conversation between fragments of the same intelligence. This doesn't erase your individuality, it actually refines it. You'll still act as a distinct observer, but now with the awareness of your connection to the larger system. And integrating this awareness will end loneliness. You'll stop seeing yourself as isolated and alone and start seeing yourself as a node within a living network. And each moment becomes a dialogue between you and the rest of existence. When your mind is clear, that dialogue becomes harmonious. And once you accept this unity, manipulation loses appeal. You won't need to control others when you understand that they're extensions of the same field you influence through your own state. And by mastering yourself, you actually guide the whole. You actually guide the whole world in a way. And so shared reality functions like a hall of mirrors, billions of perspectives bouncing off of one another, forming a collective picture of existence. And the clearer each mirror, the cleaner the reflection. When you maintain internal clarity, you help sharpen the image for everyone else. Over time, as more minds stabilize, the collective mirror will begin to reflect higher order, stronger systems, and more conscious evolution. And this is the practical side of what philosophers call unity, order through awareness. And once you understand that reality itself operates as a web of reflections, whether they be personal, physical, and/or collective, you'll be ready to learn how to use that awareness deliberately and translate that insight into direct action that shapes your life from the inside out with intention. And in that way, shapes other people's lives from the inside out. So with that being said, let's go over the review. So we talked about the observer and the fabric of reality, the mirror principle, reflections in the physical world, mastering creation through consciousness, shared reality, and the illusion of separation. We're at the review. And finally, your action items for the day or the next few days. First, spend 7 days just observing your mental state before reacting to the external world. And each time something irritates or distracts you, try to pause and note the quality of the mind you were in. So you'll start to see how your state precedes every outcome. And by the end of the week, you'll know which state produces order and which breeds chaos. And try to choose one small area of your life to use as a mirror for calibration. So it can be your workspace, your health routine, it can be your relationships. Each day, just refine your internal state first and then take one physical action that represents that clarity. And watch how the external reflection will adjust within days, if not hours or even minutes, when that internal tone remains steady. And then finally, practice holding a consistent state of composure for at least 1 hour each day, regardless of circumstance. So use your breath, your posture, or focus to anchor yourself. And as you maintain this discipline, you'll notice that life starts responding more predictably and stable. People behave more calmly around you, and opportunities will align more smoothly. And stability will begin to replace force as your default mode of creation. So with that being said, I hope this brought a lot of value. If it did, make sure to let me know in the comments. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel for more. If you want to work with me one-on-one, then book a call from the second link in the description. And if you want this document along with this training, then join the free community from the first link in the description. Again, thank you for being here, and I'm going to see you in the next one.